But bro, if this is a podcast, like I swear to God, you got to give me a heads up because I'm not even like at a good angle right now.
Not a podcast, but maybe if you drop in some gems, that could be a clip on YouTube. So
Holy shit. Okay, cool.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
cool. So yeah, Joel. So my first question is, what in your opinion are the different moving parts in a creator economy, right? Like
Yeah.
creator economy, like these different moving parts.
Yeah, I think it's great to like start by defining the entire creator economy. To be like on my side, I think it's everyone from people that post sort of like their stories on their Instagram to people that post anything, like to be honest, on any social media. They're all in their own ways and shapes and forms like content creators, right? The question is like why do we post like these kind of things, right? Like I would say when you dive deeper into those and then you realize that everyone has that moment where like there is an inner like creator in most folks, in my opinion, like especially those that actively use social media, and sometimes that triggers to like a greater extent to a level where then they start pursuing it as more of a side hustle and then more of a career, like for those that can really make it. So in the creator economy, you have all of your content creators, like I said, everyone from zero to like millions of followers. And then you also have, in my opinion, folks that create that ecosystem where it becomes seamless to produce content. So everyone from like video editors to mixers for like music to the dancers that you've got for your videos to your gamers, your streamers, your fashion designers, all of these folks, in my opinion, are very much so in the creator category. And like you also have like your odd entrepreneur that's like blogging. So like, plug, shameless plug on that one. But yeah, that's kind of like what I would define broadly speaking as the creator economy. Yeah, but for the most part, like people that create content, put it simply.
Hmm, interesting. And from an enablement point of view, what enables creators other than the platform that they are on as of today?
Their talent, right? Like what else would like enable them, right? I think it's
Mhm.
just like the tools that the platform provides them and like what they've got like in store from based on like their life experiences and things like that. I think some people start by sort of like doing their normal job and like sort of also doing this content creation thing, so that one funnels into the other.
Mhm.
Like you can see that with like MBA students, doctors, finance gurus, and all sorts of things, right? Like that's kind of like how this initially starts, and then they make it a full-time career. Yeah.
Awesome. So we saw what the creators are doing on all of these platforms. They're making a pretty decent living out of it as of today. How do you think Web3 can enhance the creator economy or improve?
What makes you say that like creators today are like living a great life,
No,
or like
like
financially speaking?
interesting question. Like I'm talking about maybe the top creators, maybe the top 0.1% creators. Uh,
Yeah,
yeah.
basically. Yeah, and probably even lesser than that. Like, and we're talking about folks that are making minimum wage at like 1%, and then we're talking about folks that are making millions in the 0.01 to 0.1% kind of category, right? That are making like thousands, and then eventually, as you go more decimal places, in the millions, right? So the point is that like when we're exploring like how Web3 can like really change revenue streams. I don't know, I'm pretty sure you would have seen the A16Z like crypto
Yeah.
sort of report on like creator economy and things like that, and how like the average Web3 creator makes something in the ballpark of like 120K a year, whereas like dollars, and whereas the average like Web2 creator makes something in the ballpark of like 0.01, something like that. Now obviously those stats are like skewed like in a different way, because the number of like the a number that is divided by is obviously like quite different. That said though, like it's undeniable that what NFTs and like social tokens have done for creators is far more than like a platform like YouTube sort of allowing you to monetize after like 4,000 watch hours and like 1,000 subscribers. um it's a big leap like forward, in my opinion. And like the ability to monetize on day one is like not something that's like you're taking advantage of like some sort of like privilege or whatever. It's more so the fact that, look, we all actually like surround ourselves with people. We take advice from different people. You're doing interviews with like, founders and things like that to kind of hear their thoughts, but they don't have, like, I'm assuming they don't have like millions of subscribers or anything like that. So why the hell should you listen to them, right? Like, why do you think that their opinion is credible? They don't have millions of followers, but you still listen to them, and it could potentially change the course of what you're building or what you're like looking into and things like that. So technically it is affecting your life, and technically they are adding value to your life. Therefore, you should be able to add value to theirs in a way, right? And the issue is that today, the way that the creator economy platforms are built, there's actually no way for that particular person without like dumbed down distribution or whatever it is, like to kind of like, be able to achieve that level of income or anything like that. Whereas the whole like 1,000 true fans, 100 true fans theory by like Legion, Kevin Kelly, and all this kind of stuff, wherein they say that you can survive a whole year by just like, having 100 true fans or whatever it is, wherein like they're sort of, essentially funding your life kind of a thing. That manifestation of that like theory has never really been like existing in my opinion. Patreon is the closest that it comes to that, right? Like, as in you're able to contribute a certain amount for a creator's kind of like year kind of. Um, the issue with that is that the incentives are not aligned, right? Like, the thing is that you're giving it like one way, and yeah, you're getting like some exclusive content, but realistically speaking, if that particular creator like blew up, there is no way for you to like align your incentives. And like, the fact that you spotted them early, the fact that you spotted them in a Zoom call like way before they were like anything significant in the world, does not matter. And like, that's kind of like what Web3 is able to change, like engaging community very early on and helping them reap the reward, for like, pushing talent. And like, because you'll potentially go and talk about this interview to your friends, to your like, friends in industry, whatever, and then they'll be like, oh shit, there's this guy. So, and that network effects keep going on, right? So it's about like, essentially monetizing that network effect to a greater degree, and like being able to do it with a much smaller network actually. So that's kind of like, I feel like what Web3 will be able to achieve, which is why, and I'm not saying like the entire like middle class of creators. I'm saying like people that are actually consistently putting out content and like adding value to the lives of others, and are able to strongly engage and incentivize community, will really be able to now more than ever before monetize better. So as far as the state of statistics go, like on 1% making minimum wage, I definitely think that that's going to change. Like, that will definitely be blown out of the water, in my opinion, because of Web3 within the coming decades. So yeah.
That's super cool. And this is what CrowdPad actually enables, right? Creating that
Yeah.
set of believers, that set of community around a creator, where you said you need just those 100 true believers, maybe,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
maybe crowdfund, anything, right? So let's say I was a creator today. How do I go about designing? Like, I'm convinced right now as a creator. How do I go about designing the token, the incentives, like you mentioned, around the token? What do you think
Yeah.
is a good system?
Yeah, I think like, look, there is different parts of decentralization that make a lot of sense. But I personally am not a decentralization maxi. I think that there are certain things that are optimized for centralization and certain things that are optimized for decentralization. Um, and in my opinion, like sort of like leaving the whole like tokenomics and like everything sort of up to a creator to launch a token, like enter the Web3 space first of all to begin with, then launch their token, understand tokenomics, and then like, do all of these things, distribute like their tokens to their community, figure out what works, what doesn't work, is already a shit ton of work. Like, you know what I mean? So what are we automating away for them that makes it easier for them to think about things? So what we do is like, we look at platforms like Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, whatever. Everybody starts you off of a level playing field, no matter what platform it is. It's not like, oh, like I'm famous on Twitter, bro. Like, why the hell am I not famous on Instagram? Like, when I create my account, I should get my 10K followers from Twitter onto Instagram. Like, no one says that shit. Like, everyone starts on zero on every platform, right? So similarly, we think that leveling the playing field for creators in the context of like, let's say, um, like on CrowdPad, essentially starting everyone off with a 21 million token supply, and then sort of like distributing 50% for community, 30% for the creator, 20% for ecosystem rewards, is actually like a very strong, like kind of like ecosystem of things. Like, I mean, like very easy way to like split the distribution of tokens in the beginning for creators to just go after it. In the future, if the community votes that they want to increase like the amount of like treasury and reduce the amount of community ownership or something like that, then that's something that they can eventually do. But for the moment, we start them all off on the same level playing field. So they all have like equal experimentation room and like, can just like play around with that part. On launching the token itself, like typically you'd have to like, go on to like, the Solana blockchain in some way and like kind of create a token. And that requires a lot of crypto native expertise, in my opinion. It's not as easy as like most folks make it out to be. Because like, just like the entry point of Web3 is like very high, like in terms of a barrier to entry. So what we do is make it as simple as like hitting a plus icon and then like writing the name of your token, writing your username, and then like having a custom URL link to distribute to your fans going like, hey guys, like my token's up, like, get a part of my community, and then create like an exclusive environment for you with throwing out Discord basically and going like, here are exclusive posts, events, bounties, perks, and like, this is kind of what a creator DAO looks like. So you're able to kind of reward, incentivize, and retain like community members within your creator community, like all on one platform. And it's like super simple to discover them because it's like the video native discovery mechanism is what we use. So you like have like a 10 or 15-second TikTok kind of video where you discover a different creator. But I guess like, and this is probably a bit of a tangent, but like the reason we go after creator DAOs as opposed to any DAO is because like, think about like a Tanmay Bhatt, for instance, right? Like he's a, comedy like guy, like through and through, decade plus, right? And like, when you look at DAOs that have done really well, like Constitution DAO, or like you look at Ukraine DAO or anything like that, these DAOs have like, well, really, really performed, like rather set out to, I mean, done the things that they've sort of set out to do, right? And why is that? Because the sense of like brand, mission, purpose is like consistent through and through, right? And who else can really cultivate that sense of DAOs outside of DeFi? Like I would say outside of like making like a really big return, like financially, and that being a North Star. I would say like it's like creators that have a particular sense of like, I'm creating content about tech, I'm creating content about medicine, I'm creating content about finance. And like that will be my brand like through and through, right? But I will still make content that's like adjacent. So like Tanmay can do comedy in Bollywood and he can do comedy in like crypto as well. So that like stays consistent, and that's why I believe that creators will actually be able to retain like, sort of like DAO community members and things like that way more easily than any other community group in the world. And that's why I think creator DAOs are the next big wave.
Got it. Very interesting. And also maybe another thing where like going after creator DAOs, you know that the community already has wallets in distribution.
Yeah.
So I think that yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
I mean,
And
we even like make it easy. So we've got our own non-custodial wallet. So you can like set up your own non-custodial wallet. So in competition with the likes of like any of the big wallets out there. So you can do everything that you can do on a existing Phantom wallet on Crowdpad like very easily. Just you'll see that like if you're on the beta list, then on Friday you're gonna get access to
oh,
this that I'm talking about.
wow.
So yeah, like I would say it's basically like we understand that actually a lot of people don't even own crypto when they're seeing our app, because in fact targeting creators means that you're getting a lot of new people into crypto. So they don't own any crypto, they don't have a wallet. That's kind of our assumptions. Actually, it's not that we assume that they have wallets already. So they come in, the login equivalent is basically like creating a wallet, non-custodial, and then like post that, like we give a fiat on ramp to kind of like convert cash or credit card, whatever, into crypto. And then like they can store that in their non-custodial wallet on the platform as well.
Awesome. Awesome. My next question was around when do these social tokens accrue value and when does shit hit the roof generally?
When do yeah. So okay, I would say it's like this, right? Like I said, everyone starts on a level playing field, $0.01 in value. And then it's the basis of like demand and supply, like accruing value over time across the 21 million supply that we were talking about. When does shit hit the roof? What do you mean by that? Like in the context of a
Like,
good way or what?
yeah, in a bad way, right? So when do people start dumping these tokens? When do they stop maybe believing in the creator? or how does the price go south, or when do people want to dump it?
Yeah. I think it's more so like when you have like something negative, like look, what infects kind of any stock or like crypto or like anything of value today to people? Like what makes the price for it go down, right? It's some demand shock or like some like supply side shock, right? Like that same thing applies to even a social token. So it just moves from like being like net profits, income, revenue, like those kind of like metrics to, oh, like this person said something really like inappropriate on like X show and like now they're being canceled, or like the consumer sentiment around them being like successful in the future is like weaker. So maybe like you have less confidence in them, or you're on the other side of the thing going like, hey, I don't give a shit that this person said this, just because like I know that at their heart like they are like like a hustler and like they will recover from this. And like the difference between like I guess comparing this to like a stock or something like that, which I feel like a lot of people make the mistake of doing, is that in this case it's a like sort of the lifespan of a creator's journey, right? And the reality is that in a lifespan of anything, like you would have a growth period, you'd have a plateauing period, and like you'd have like a sort of resurgence kind of a period as well, potentially, and several other periods like that. And that's kind of how you would evaluate a creator. In my opinion, it's going to be like some sort of like proof of hustle, or like some sort of like proof of action that kind of really makes you kind of go that, oh, okay, like this person, no matter what, even if not today, even if not in 2 years, in 3 years, they will absolutely freaking like get it, right? So I think that's like really important to kind of remember.
That's awesome. So if you were to give maybe two great examples of how social tokens are being used today, what do you think are some good models that are?
Yeah, I actually don't think that they're being used well today, to be very honest with you. Like, I think that it's all under the guise of like, oh, exclusive this, exclusive that. And like, I think that's bullshit, like, to be very honest with you. Like, I think that like, it to a certain extent, like, it'll bring some value to some like super fans or whatever, maybe. But I think like operationalizing social capital is like the only way that it derives real value. So I'm talking about like, instead of paying your video editor in like, cash, you're paying them in crypto, you're paying them in your social token, your sort of person that's in your music video, pay them for that in your social token. Let's say mixing your tracks, like everything that's in like the creator journey pipeline that we were talking about earlier,
Mhm.
basically like have all of that within that. And also bounties, right? Like, so carrying out tasks. So let's say I'm crowdsourcing the topic for my podcast this week, and like one person happens to come up with it, like reward them with my social token. If you look at this particular song, have you heard the song ABCDEFU?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like F you and your mom and dad, sister, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, okay, let's no one drop that, please.
Yeah.
Uh, but like, do you know the origin of that song?
I don't. I don't.
Yeah, so basically it was like from like a TikTok video, right? And basically the creator went like, hey, guys, like what should I make a song about next? And this person wrote like A B C D F E, like something like that, right? Along those lines. And this person actually took that seriously, made a freaking song about it, and then went like viral as hell. And guess what the person that wrote the comment got? Absolutely freaking nothing, right? Like, and like, sure, it was just a stupid comment, but that stupid comment led to a like, a multi-million streamed kind of like song. And I think like in the case of like social tokens, you'll be able to crowdsource the same thing, reward that person, and incentivize them to give you even more ideas and like stupid stuff like going forward, which might like get you more attention, or like maybe it'll be something more like less random and more statistically proven, or whatever it is, and like it's a smarter thing to do with the community. But you get the point. Like, I'm thinking very much along the lines of like operationalizing social capital, as opposed to like, oh, it's a gated party, it's a gated this. Like, we can do all of that, absolutely, and we will. But I think that it goes beyond that. It's not just about that. In the future, you should be able to go from like dollar sid to a Starbucks in a single step process. And that's why we have like a lot of like stable coin pairings as well, like USDC, rest in peace, USD. Anyway, so like that's kind of like my core like thesis about this. Yeah.
That's great. So creating like a closed system within your community is going to be like you said, operationalizing the like I don't know, yeah, operationalizing your community, your creator economy, your little creator
Your
economy,
social capital.
your
Yeah,
social.
yeah,
Yeah, that's very interesting. This is the first time I'm hearing about it because I've seen social tokens being used like in GCR. I would also say bankless is sort of a social token, although they say governance. But I also think that's a social token, and they give you gated access to maybe premium content, premium research, this and that. But I I as a user don't want to buy $200 worth of uh, tokens just to get maybe two more research papers in the month, right? So
yeah.
yeah, this is very
I
interesting.
mean, look, some people want it, some people don't,
Yeah,
right?
some
Like,
yeah.
as in that's kind of like what we're saying. So it's not just about like being able to buy these things to get more access. It's about like being able to earn them to get more access. So that's kind of like the accessibility piece that we're really focused on. And we're also looking at the intersection of like ownership, the duration of that ownership of this particular social token, and your engagement within the community as a core amalgamated like mechanism of like determining your access to a community rather than just, oh, more tokens equals more access. I mean, that's probably where we will start, to be honest, because our number one goal is to get something out and like test on from there and see if that's what people want. If not, then like pivot away from that. But my guess is like we're going to see an amalgamation of these particular metrics, and then like that will determine access within communities. Yeah.
That's awesome because now that I think of it, the whole operationalizing it, creating that closed economy within actually strengthens the network effects within the community too, right? And I think
Yeah.
that's what everybody strives for in a creator economy. It's the strength of the network effects among their community members and the strength um,
Yeah.
uh, towards the creator, right? Very
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, do you see any other way other than social tokens where Web3 can enable a creator economy as of today?
Yeah, I think NFTs and like royalties, especially within NFTs, I think is a very, very interesting kind of piece, right? So like in an ideal world where like regulation was very friendly and very utopian, I would say that like something like an ISA kind of model, almost like where the royalties of the NFTs that you've kind of like issued were like tied to your social tokens value as well, rather than just sort of the demand and supply of your token. Rather giving it even more fundamentals would be like a really cool thing to happen. But I don't know how far away we are from that, and like that's also like on the regulatory side less friendly. So
Mhm.
like perhaps it's not something that's an immediate truth. So that'll be interesting. But even more broadly, NFTs completely separately do social tokens as well. I feel like for fashion, for music, it's going to be phenomenal. Like as in creators have been like ripped off for long enough. Like to be honest, like I've been meeting with like I love my job because of the fact that like I'm meeting so many new kinds of like creators all the time. Everyone from like fine art folks to film makers to like your hip hop artists and things like that, and you can hear the struggles like that they've genuinely gone through with like gatekeepers within industry that have like for the longest time not really given them their cut, and this is their time to shine. So this creator economy stuff, yeah, like a lot of people building in it are full of bullshit and like like will not really like think through a creator's lens. And they don't really talk to creators, they're just building for creators like without having to know like what it's like to be a creator, or like having ever like built for the creator economy before. Those are both things that we've done on our team, within our team, like the expertise is there on that, so yeah, that's kind of like where I'm thinking about it from, and where I think the strongest like use cases outside of social tokens will be NFTs in like music and fashion.
Wow, that's awesome. And yeah, so,
Also gaming, sorry.
oh
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, like skins on like for
yeah,
like different like gaming avatars and things like that, it's also big, of course.
absolutely. Yeah, so more than decentralizing the entire creator economy, what it's actually doing, what Web3 is actually doing is maybe demonopolizing a lot of things, right? Or
Yeah,
yeah,
I think that's perfect. Like, I think that's a perfect way to describe it. I'm actually going to use that now, bro. Sorry. Um,
go for it.
yeah,
Give me some of your social tokens for this.
yeah.
Some
See,
joy
if you said
tokens.
this in my freaking community, bro, I could have rewarded you with a social token. Now what can I do, dude? Like we're on a freaking Zoom
Yeah.
call. Things are not.
I just got A, B, C, D, E, F, U. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we're on time. Yes. Thank you so much for this, Joel.